ఇంటర్మీడియట్ విద్యారంగంలో అగ్రగామి మన ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్ ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్. ఐఐటి జేఈఈ అయినా నీట్ అయినా తిరుగులేని విద్యా సంస్థ ఎన్ఎస్ఆర్ ఇంపల్స్.
Hello students, let us continue with our discussion. For the last class we studied about transpiration, uptake of mineral ions. Now let's continue the topic, translocation of mineral ions. Let us continue our discussion with translocation of mineral ions. For the last class we discussed very clearly uptake of mineral ions. Uptake means absorption of mineral ions. How? Not always by passive, sometimes active, sometimes osmosis, sometimes diffusion. You studied very clearly, remember that, right? Similarly, see that how we can study about translocation of mineral ions. Now in this we have importantly we can say, so I will just give you very important point, the cheap sink for mineral ions. So whenever you get the question that the cheap sink for mineral ions nothing but are growing parts of the plant. Growing parts of the plant. So which are the growing parts of the plant? Now you can take here what not we get, apical meristem. Similarly, lateral meristem. What are the other names for apical meristem? Even you know the terminal, right? Lateral meristem, also called as what? Axillary. Right? Now apart from this, you can also take into consideration of young flowers, young fruits and even young seeds. Even formation of young leaves. So in all these cases we find the growing parts of the plant where they have lot of concentration of excess quantity of minerals. So whenever we get the question that cheap sink for mineral ions means, remember growing parts of the plant. What happens in all these plants? In all these plants you can see accumulation of high quantity of mineral ions. High quantity of mineral ions, or we say rich in mineral ions. There is an accumulation of high quantity of mineral ions or the rich in mineral ions. That is the reason we say the cheap sink for mineral ions is growing parts of the plant. Similarly, let me have other point also, it is very important, also have the chance to get it in the form of a question. What is the statement? Whenever you get the statement that unloading of mineral ions occurs at veins and veinlets. Occurs at veins and veinlets. Remember, by, very important, by diffusion and by active transport, very important, and by active transport. What is a very important statement we have to discuss? Unloading of mineral ions occurs at veins and veinlets by diffusion and active transport. Very important. These two are very important. Where these two will happen means at veins and veinlets. Even this is important to remember. This is not loading, and here you remember unloading of mineral ions. What exactly meaning of this here? Now if you look at here, for example, this is the stem giving minerals to branch. Here these all are nothing but minerals to the branch. Now what happens here? Now this is a leaf. Now leaf contains what? Here is midrib. Midrib gives what to veins. Veins gives to what? Veinlets. Now they give to whom they will give? They will give to mesophyll. Right? They will give all the nutrients to mesophyll. What happens here? The veins carry water and minerals. They are fully loaded. They are fully loaded. Unloading meaning what? They give load to mesophyll. They will give water and minerals to the mesophyll. Why? Mesophyll contain chloroplast. It has to undergo the process called as photosynthesis. Mesophyll contains chloroplast. It has to undergo the process called photosynthesis. So, it will give nutrients, meaning what? Unloading. What is the meaning of unloading? First it is fully loaded, later it will transfer all nutrients to mesophills. That means unloading. It comes with fully loaded form, after that it will be unloaded all the minerals and nutrients to mesophyll. That is what we call unloading. They carry with fully loaded, after that they make unloading, means they will give everything to mesophyll. Where it happens? At veins and veinlets. At veins and veinlets what process happens? Diffusion and active transport. Very, very, very important. Okay. What are the two statements we are discussing? One is chief sink for mineral ions means growing parts of the plant. Starting from apical or terminal bud, growth occurs. Maybe the young branch or young leaf or young flower, young fruit occurs at the terminal parts, or laterally means axillary bud, right? And this all will, they show what? Rich in nutrients, accumulation of high quantity of mineral ions, because growing parts need more amount of minerals. That is why they act as cheap sink for mineral nutrients. Similarly, the next important statement, unloading of mineral ions occurs at veins and veinlets by the process called diffusion and active transport. So, unloading is important, veins and veinlets is important. Remember that happens by diffusion and active transport. Now, apart from this, still we have some more important statements. Let us continue with them. In translocation of mineral ions, so the next important statement is, again this is also question getting one. Minerals are withdrawn from senescent part of the plant, to young parts of the plant. What is the meaning of this? Minerals are withdrawn from the senescent part of the plant to young part of the plant. What is the meaning of the statement here if you look at? For example, here the huge plant is there, stem is there here. Now here let us take, this is a old leaf. Old leaf means what? It is get aging here, it is suffering, already it got aging. It's got aged. Aging itself is called as what? Senescence. Aging of the plant part, it's called as what? Senescence. I think we have discussed earlier also. What is the meaning of senescence? Aging of plant parts. Aging of plant parts is called, process of aging of plant parts is called senescence. Senescent part of the plant means, suppose let us imagine the nutrients are supplied to old leaf, but the old leaf is about to die, old leaf is about to fall off. At that time what happens? All the minerals are withdrawn and they will be supplied to the young leaf. So what is the use of supplying the nutrients to the old leaf when there is no use, when the leaf is about to fall down, when the leaf is already matured and it is already about to die, then no sense in sending minerals to that part. At that time what happens? Stem will supply all minerals to the leaf, and once it come to know it is a senescent part, all the nutrients are withdrawn and will be supplied to the young part of the plant. So what is the statement here? Minerals are withdrawn from the senescent parts of the plant to young parts of the plant. So here when you see that there is a movement of minerals, what you can observe here is, there is a movement of minerals, maybe potassium or nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur, they are keep showing the movement. So when you talk about movement of minerals, when you talk about movement, or we call translocation, meaning long distance. When you look at this movement of minerals or translocation of minerals, now in that again we classify into two categories. The minerals are classified into two types, or movement or the translocation of minerals are of two types. With this we know already, minerals are classified into two types. What are they? Most readily mobilized elements, most readily mobilized elements, this we know, this is first category. What is the first category? Most readily mobilized elements. What is the other category? Immobilized elements, or cannot be mobilized, cannot be mobilized elements. So these are two types, or which cannot be remobilized, which cannot be remobilized. So we have two categories. Actively mobilized means most readily mobilized elements. Some are cannot be mobilized, cannot be remobilized. They are called immobilized elements. This we already discussed in mineral nutrients. Tell me the examples which all will come. Nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium. What are they? Nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium. Nitrogen occur in both organic form as well as inorganic form. It occur in both organic form as well as inorganic form. Coming to sulfur and phosphorus, both occur in organic form. Both occur in organic compounds. We studied, right? Where this potassium is occurring across cell wall, and maintains what? And maintains what it maintains? Cation and anion balance, as well as osmotic potential of cell wall, osmotic potential of cell. This we know, we discussed in the previous chapter mineral nutrition about each element and what is the symptoms we study, deficiency symptoms we study, toxicity symptoms we study. Okay. What we are discussing here, some of the minerals are withdrawn from the older parts of the plant to younger parts of the plant. When they withdrawn, they keep moving from one place to other place. Based on the movement, the minerals are classified into two types. Okay. Movement or translocation of minerals, if you take, minerals are of two types. What is the first category in this case? The first category are most readily mobilized elements. What are most readily mobilized elements? See, this is where leaf is fully filled, then minerals may be moving to other leaf or to the branch they are moving. Means they are moving from one part of the plant to other part of the plant. They keep showing the movement from the stem to the leaf, to the leaf to the branch, branch to the young leaf. They keep moving from one place to other place. They are called most readily mobilized elements. So, we already studied in mineral nutrition. What are they? NPKs, right? Nitrogen, sulfur, phosphorus, potassium. Any of the way you can remember. NSPK you can remember or NPKs you can remember. In that we already discussed nitrogen exists in both organic form and inorganic form, whereas sulfur and phosphorus occur in the form of organic compounds. Potassium occur in the across the cell wall and it maintains and does two important functions we discussed earlier. What are they? Cation anion balance and also regulates osmotic potential of the cell. Right? Now, immobilized or cannot be mobilized at all. Immobilized means here let us take calcium. So, calcium if you look at, calcium is structural element of the cell. Structural element of the cell. So, the calcium is nothing but what? Structural element of the cell. Why do you call this a structural element of the cell? Once calcium, if it is absorbed by any part of the plant, further it will not be remobilized, further it cannot be show movement, further it cannot show movement. Once it is absorbed means it is absorbed. For example, if you take in the plant, suppose if you take the old leaf, let us take the old leaf. The old leaf from the stem, old leaf has taken calcium, right. So, when it become older leaf, remaining all minerals, potassium will go to younger leaf, this is an young leaf, okay. Nitrogen will go to young leaf, phosphorus will go to young leaf, but coming to calcium, calcium will say no, I will not move. It says no, I will not move. Once it is absorbed, it cannot be remobilized, it stays there only, it cannot be remobilized, it cannot go to new place. Remobilized meaning it cannot go to any other place, it does not go to relocate, remobilized, or it is immobilized, it will not move at all, cannot be mobilized. What is the best example? Calcium means calcium becomes structural part of that particular plant organ, it enters into the structure, that is why it is called structural element of the cell, further it will not move from that place. So, it is called immobilized element or cannot be remobilized or simply cannot be what you call remobilized. So, if you take this calcium and sulfur, in mineral nutrition chapter, in one paragraph, they will add sulfur and calcium are immobilized elements. Guys, do not get confusion. In transport in plants, if you look at NCERT textbook, textual lines I am speaking about. In transport in plants, we have the paragraph called translocation of mineral ions. In that, sulfur is placed in mobilized elements. Okay, and immobilized means they will write calcium. But go to the second chapter called mineral elements, mineral nutrition. In mineral nutrition also we have a paragraph. There also we study most readily absorbed elements, most readily mobilized, and some elements are immobilized. There mineral nutrition chapter along with the calcium they will mention as sulfur, calcium and sulfur. So, do not confuse guys. In some cases sulfur act as mobilized element, in some cases sulfur also some metabolic processes, sulfur also act as immobilized elements. Now, to avoid confusion, what you have to see according to the question. If the question is from transport in plant, in the question if the concept is related to transport in plants, keep the sulfur under mobilized element. Suppose in the question the concept speaking is related to mineral nutrition, then keep the sulfur under immobilized element along with the calcium. So, guys, check today after your class, check you yourself. We have two paragraphs, one paragraph in transport in plants, another paragraph in mineral nutrition, and you will get a confliction about sulfur. Do not confuse. According to the statement you have to take, sulfur has it can be mobilized at some metabolic processes. In some metabolic processes it exists along with the calcium as immobilized element. So, got it now what we discussed, translocation of mineral elements. Now, let us study about bulk flow or transport, phloem transport. Let us continue our discussion with phloem transport. In the phloem, what get transported? So, there is a transport of food materials. There is a transport of food materials. How food materials are transported? Not in small quantity, they get transported in large quantity. That's why we call bulk flow, or itself is called as mass flow hypothesis. Mass flow hypothesis. Okay, what we are discussing now, phloem transport. Remember, this is very, very important. Phloem transport is very, very important. Phloem transport gives what? Transport of food materials. That was given by hypothesis. There was a theory, and theory is nothing but bulk flow. It is explained with the help of a theory or a hypothesis called bulk flow or mass flow hypothesis, given by the theory or hypothesis. It was given by Ernest Munch. There was a scientist called Ernest Munch. So, when you talk about the phloem, when you look at the phloem here, let us take what I am drawing here. This is nothing but xylem and this is nothing but phloem. So, here I write xylem. What are the things so far we discussed about xylem and phloem? Now, if you take in case of xylem, what it get transported here? So, it get transported involved in conduction of water and minerals, and that is upward movement, upward direction, upward transport of minerals and water happens in upward direction. And about xylem, you all know it very well, it is unidirectional. It is unidirectional, goes from where to where? Root to shoot, through shoot to the tip of the leaf, to all the parts of the plant. Coming to phloem, phloem is the one which transports what is called organic material. So, here better you write down inorganic. In case of xylem, remember water and inorganic minerals. Coming to phloem, organic materials. How they get transported? They get transported in bidirectional. The food get transported in bidirectional. What else we study here? If you look at, does you think, the question if at all you get, does you think xylem only conducts water and inorganic minerals? That is a wrong statement. Phloem only conducts food materials or organic materials? That is a wrong statement. Why? We studied that. If you look at, this is a xylem and having all four components. Within the xylem, what the four components we find? Xylem tracheids, xylem fiber, xylem vessels, xylem parenchyma. Similarly, phloem also we have four components. What are they? Sieve tube elements, companion cells, phloem fiber, phloem parenchyma. Now, what happens here is, if you take the shoot system, there is an exchange of materials between xylem and phloem. So, from the phloem, some materials will enter into xylem. From the xylem, there is some materials will enter into phloem. So, what happens here? Exchange of materials. What do we write here? Exchange of materials happens between what and what? Xylem and phloem. X is nothing but what? We say xylem. P is nothing but what? Phloem. So, there is some exchange of, some amount of, better you write down complete statement, So here some amount of exchange of materials happens between xylem and phloem. Whatever xylem is carrying, in that a few inorganic minerals, little water, it will give it to phloem. At the same time, phloem also will send some of the organic materials, food materials to xylem. So there is an exchange of materials between xylem and phloem. What is the statement supports here? So this statement what we write here, it supports that, what do we say? Xylem not only carry water and inorganic minerals, not only carry water and inorganic minerals, but also few organic compounds. Few organic materials means food materials. What is the statement? Xylem not only carry water and inorganic, but also carry few organic minerals means food. Similarly, what is the statement of phloem? Phloem not only carry organic materials, not only carry organic food, right, but also carries few water molecules along with inorganic materials, right. So these two statements, why? Because there is a continuous exchange of food and water. Phloem gives little food to xylem, in return xylem will give water and minerals to phloem. Exchange between xylem and phloem takes place. Mainly what we are discussing here, what we have to discuss here is nothing but phloem transport, transport of food materials. Now in the phloem, what is the main food materials we talk about? It contains, I am giving the composition of phloem, meaning with what the phloem is made up of. I am giving you here composition of phloem. What is the composition of phloem? With what the phloem is made up of. Phloem made up of 90 to 92% of sugar, that is nothing but, sugar is nothing but sucrose, mostly it is sucrose, right, and along with that little quantity of water and inorganic minerals, hormones, amino acids, including other sugars. What are the other sugars? We say galactose, mannose and all that, xylulose and all that. So up to here, this is all together, it is called as phloem sap. What do we call this? That is called as phloem sap. Fluid of phloem sap we call. So what is the composition of phloem? Phloem mainly contain 90 to 92% of sugars, that is mostly sucrose, water, other sugars like galactose, inorganic minerals, hormones, amino acids, which we call it as what? Phloem sap. It's called as what? Phloem sap. Right. Now if you take the phloem sap, let us see how this happens, how it will go, mainly how it causes bidirectional movement. This is what we have to importantly discuss, because xylem always it is unidirectional. Now what we have to discuss? Bidirectional movement. How it happens? For example, if you look at, this is a shoot system, this is nothing but the stem. Let us imagine. Initially what happens here? Let us take, this is nothing but the leaf. Imagine this is nothing but the leaf. So what do we discuss? This is nothing but midrib. This is nothing but veins. Veins contain what are called as veinlets. Guys, if you remember earlier we discussed the point. How unloading of minerals occurs at the veins, we already have discussed. Unloading occurs from the veins and veinlets into mesophyll cell. This is by either diffusion or by active transport. You remember, or by active transport. So here if you look at, leaf is nothing but act as a source. So Source. Why it is acting as a source? Because leaf is the one undergo photosynthesis and prepares the food material. So leaf has the food. Food is nothing but sucrose. Okay, leaf in this case it is acting as a source. Leaf in this case it is acting as a source because in leaf all mesophyll cells are filled with food materials. So they are fully filled with food materials. What is the food materials we find? Sugars, mostly sucrose. Right? Now, what happens initially first? So there may be transport in upward direction. Upward direction meaning what? You know that the growing parts of the stem. So this is nothing but apical meristem. Apical meristem is in need of food. Why? Because that's a growing part of the plant, right? That's a growing part of the plant. What occurs at the apical meristem? At the apical meristem, what occurs is called as the growth. What occurs is called as the growth. So for growth, what it needs? It needs food. So there is a transfer of food materials. What? From the midrib, from the veins, from the leaf, there is a transport of food occurs in upward direction. This is upward transport of food. Upward transport of food. From where to where? There is an upward transport of food. From where to where? From the leaf to apical meristem. Okay, that is called as, the first one called as upward direction. Movement here, we are discussing movement of food. The first one is upward direction. The first one is upward direction. What is that upward direction? From where to where? Leaf to apical meristem. Leaf to apical meristem. Food is going in upward direction. Coming to the basal part of the root, of course root is the one which is one side continuously giving water and minerals. At the same time, a root has to survive. The root has to survive, means root also is in need of some food material. So what happens? The leaf will supply, this is first one, upward direction. Leaf will supply the food to the root. So this is nothing but downward transport of food. Downward transport of food. Right? Food is coming down. Why? Because root also has to survive. It needs food. So the food will get supplied from the leaf to root. It's nothing but downward. So what is the second one we write? On the movement of food, we can say a downward direction. When you take the downward direction, from where to where? Again the source is leaf to the root system. Right? Apart from this, suppose there may be formation of the branch here. There may be formation of the branch. There may be formation of the young leaf. Or maybe there may be formation of young flower here. Young flower, or maybe a fruit, young fruit. So when there is a formation of the growing parts of the plant, for example you take to the branch, so where the food is getting transported? From the leaf, the food is also getting transported to the branch or to the young leaf or to the young flower or to the young fruit. So this is nothing but a lateral direction. This is third one. That means leaf is the source having the food. From the leaf, the food get directed to maybe to the young branch or young flower, young leaf or to the young fruit. So what is the third one? It is called as a lateral direction. The food movement occurs even in lateral direction. From where to where? From the leaf to growing parts of the plant. From the leaf to growing parts of the plant. What are the growing parts of the plant? You can take branch, flowers, leaf and the fruits. At that time what happens? The transportation occurs in the lateral direction. It occurs in the lateral direction. But mostly what occurs is upward direction and downward direction. That's why it is say upward it is going, downward it is going. That is why we say the movement as a bidirectional movement. Where this is all happening? This is all happening within the phloem. We are discussing about the phloem. Mostly here the food occurs in upward direction, food occurs in downward direction. It's a continuous phenomena. Remember, in phloem it is always bidirectional. Apart from bidirectional, sometimes even lateral directional movement also occurs from the leaf to growing parts of the plant. This is how phloem is involved in transportation of food from one part of the plant to other part of the plant. So, I repeat again. So, what we are discussing here, phloem transport. Leaf is the one which undergo photosynthesis, prepares its food. So, leaf mesophyll cells are fully filled with sugars. So, leaf acting as a source. Right. Now food will get translocated, veins and veinlets, unloading happens by diffusion and active transport. Now what happens when leaf is having so much of food material? It is called kitchen of the sugars or kitchen of the food or source we call. From the leaf it goes to the growing parts, means apical meristem, to the tip. Why at the tip it has to supply food? Because growth occurs at the apical meristem. So, food need to get translocated in upward direction, that is upward transportation of food. So, here if you take, when you talk about the movement of food, the food is going in upward direction. Upward direction means from where to where it is growing? From the leaf to the apical meristem, that is upward movement, right. Then later what happens? From the leaf, the food is going in downward direction to the root. Why? Root gives water and minerals to the shoot. In return, phloem will supply sugars, that is second one called downward direction. From where to where it is happening? From the leaf to root system. So, from the leaf to root system. This is second one we call downward direction. Apart from upward and downward direction, in the phloem even there is a lateral directional movement. What happens? So, here from the leaf the food need to get translocated to the branches, young flowers, young leaf, young fruits. What occurs is called as a lateral direction. So, leaf is the one which acts as a source for growing parts of the plant. So, this is called as lateral direction. That is why we say phloem, it is not only bidirectional, we say multidirectional. Sometimes the question will come multidirectional. Some of the minerals they undergo random movement. Some of the minerals or the ions they show what is called a random movement. They keep moving in all direction. That is why in the introduction we studied. Some of the organic, inorganic they show multi-directional movement, random movement. They participate in upward, downward or also lateral. But basically you have to remember phloem transport means immediately you have to look for bidirectional movement. This is nothing but phloem transport. So, but this we have to study in detail. We will study in detail about the theory called bulk flow or mass flow hypothesis.